Hi and welcome to Tauno's Titties for Queen Azshara Phase 2 and onwards, the bit of the fight where you actually fight Azshara. So Phase 2 starts with Azshara entering the arena and starting to fight you, and she will create a ward of power, which is sort of an opposite ancient ward, where the ancient wards do damage to the entire raid. If they run out of energy, the ward of power increases Azshara's damage the more energy it has. But you can remove that energy just like you can give energy to the ancient wards. If you do, you get a stack of the drained soul, lowering your maximum hit points. Again, you can take 5, maybe 6 stacks of that. So also during this phase, Azshara will also sap the energy of the nearest ancient ward, or give energy to the ward of power. So you should try to use this to make sure that the ward of power doesn't become too powerful, but also so that you don't lose all the power of one of the ancient wards. The tank ability is Arcane Jolt, which is a little bit of arcane damage. If you get hit, you take 5% more arcane damage. Stacks, last 7 seconds. You want to, once it's run out from the other tank, you want to taunt back on. It'll probably be something like 7 or 9 stacks. Also, she does Arcane Mastery, which is group-wide arcane damage. That's the main thing that needs to keep the healers occupied. Then there's Beckon, which you might recognize from Phase 1. It has changed. Instead of sending you to the center of the room, it sends you towards Azshara. And if you reach Azshara, you become mind-controlled instead of stunned. You do still get a bubble around you that can be broken, freeing you from the mind control. So if anyone gets mind controlled, you want to stun them, break them out of the mind control, and resume the fight as regularly. She will also give ranged players an arcane burst, which when it expires deals damage to everyone in line of sight. So you have to use the consoles and the pillars in the room to break line of sight so that the raid doesn't take damage when arcane burst is removed. When Azshara reaches 100 energy, she also does a line of sight ability. So at 100 energy, everyone needs to break line of sight with Azshara. Throughout this phase, she will summon adds, which will move towards the wards of power and kill themselves to remove energy from the ancient wards or give energy to the ward of power. There will either be one big add or several smaller adds. So either use the crowd control that makes sense for a lot of small ones, or one big one. Or rather, the big one can't be crowd control, but it's slow, can kill it before it gets there. At 70% health, there's another intermission. It works exactly like the first one, except you can still keep hitting Azshara. You do want to soak the arcane orbs first and foremost. That's what hurts during the intermission. But if, say, you get an obey decree, which means you can't stand inside an arcane orb, there's no reason not to start hitting Azshara instead. Once this intermission is over, phase 3 begins with a few changes. Beckon now makes whoever moves faster. So you need to be really far away for you to not reach her. Again, it becomes more important for you to make that distance between yourself and Azshara. And she now has the ability to move her ward of power around, basically switching its place with an ancient ward. So you have to keep an eye on the arena and which spot needs energy and which spot needs it removed. Otherwise, she has all the same abilities. The final change is that she summons adds. She summons 2 Tide Mistresses who each go to a random ward. You need to focus these down because they constantly drain the energy of their wards. They have 3 abilities each. Each Tide Mistress has a unique name, but they have the same abilities. Chain Lightning can be interrupted. Probably should. Static Shot gives a random player some damage on anyone close to them when it wears off. And finally, a Shield. Now, the only way to break the shield is with the other type of add, a Loyal Myrmidon. The Loyal Myrmidon should be tanked, but should not be killed. The only ability that the Myrmidon has is Charged Spear, which will target a random player, fly directly to that player, do damage to anyone in the path, and then explode. but if it hits a shield, it will break the shield instead. So one tank can just take the ad over behind a Tide Mistress with the raid on the other side, making certain that the Myrmidon will break the shield immediately. Once both Tide Mistresses are dead, phase 4 begins. So Azshara still has the ability to suck energy out of a ward or give energy to her own. She can still change their place, and she changes beckon again, in that if you get mind controlled, it is now permanent. So if anyone gets mind controlled, kill them as soon as possible. They will not be safe otherwise. She changes her tank swap mechanic. Instead of arcane damage, it is now shadow damage. And instead of increasing the shadow damage taken on each stack, it reduces healing recede. So again, you want to swap so that the debuff can wear off. And the debuff lasts 30 seconds, so that's fairly long. She then has the ability to make a void portal at random locations. Don't stand in it, and just try to keep it. Will probably be placed under players, so try to keep the room movable so that you can keep re-energizing the wards. She gets a beam that does damage to anyone within it. It is very narrow, apparently. Should just locate where it is and step out of the way. And finally, she has the ability to overload the Titan console. So in this phase, the middle console can overload, and this basically means that if it's ever completely filled with energy, it explodes, killing everyone. So as it gains energy, you want to send players over to it to suck energy out of it, and sucking energy out of it can create one of three things. It can create a system shock, which is basically a hard-hitting dot to the player who did that. It can create a short circuit, which will completely remove the power from one of the three ancient wards, triggering raid-wide damage, which means you have to repower that ward immediately. Or you could get lucky and a random player gets a 40-second buff that makes all their spellcasts instant, gives you 50% health, gives you massive resource regeneration, but once those 40 seconds are up, you die. And that is how phases 2 through 4 of Queen Azshara goes. Sheep, if you have any corrections.